Hi. Hi, everybody. It's been a minute. I apologize for the time, but I was finishing school. I was taking care of some licensing. I now am a certified nutritionist. Okay. So, and I'm working towards a career change. So I've been doing that. So thank you for your patience, and I'm happy to see you here again. So today I'm going to do a little tiny bit on the calendar, and because today I'm recording this on May 31st, and it is a Saturday, and going by my 9 planetary day calendar, it is also Saturn's day. If we go by the new moon being the first day of the start of the month. However, if we go by the new moons or the month starting the first day after the new moon, it's Jupiter. So today's energy, plus we have a crescent moon, we have the first quarter moon happening. It's first quarter moon, but it's a crescent moon right now. What is that? And so we have some cool energy around the moon and the planets. But today we're going to talk a little bit about some goddesses that I promised to talk about. And I'm going to talk about the stars. I'm telling y'all. It's a trip. But things go back to the stars. So we have Saturn, Jupiter energy. And also just after the new moon. So you might be feeling some real surges of prosperity in the sense of either ideas, creation, new ideas of things in the future. Plus, just in general, it's getting warmer. It's getting lighter, longer. That's about to change. It's about to shift. But we're having nice long days. So there is an uplift of energies for a lot of people feeling good, people working towards feeling good. A lot of people are doing things like fasting and cleansings and exercise routines. Well, it's a really good time to do that because the energy just alone, without knowing anything about the moon and the stars and the planets, is very uplifting right now. Also, we have a awareness of certain heavinesses that need to be addressed, so to speak. So we'll see a lot of what is known as shadow work, wound healing. Mommy and I are one. Women uplifting each other, coming together. Males also doing the same thing. Just a shift in the work to be done. It's being done, and it's on an uptick, which also comes with kind of like awareness, which won't feel good, but that's kind of the energies of Saturn and Jupiter. This is maybe today's energy, maybe the energy for the next couple weeks, maybe what you're feeling when you watch this, whenever you may watch it. That's my energy update for Saturday, May 31st. Saturn and Jupiter energy on Saturn's day. So extra energy there. If you do practice with Saturn energy or alchemy in that way, today is a double dip day. Okay. All right, so I wanted to talk about the three goddesses that I mentioned in my last video. And I talked about Ayeyo, who is known as Oya's younger sister. And there is a notion or kind of a thought, a theory, that is it possible that Ayao could be Oya's daughter and then was kind of shifted to a sister so that the deity could be kind of represented in a different way? Because it is said that she had 9 children, but they weren't her own. So this one is said to be her sister, but I wonder if it was one of her children. Okay, so just side note thought, and just a reminder, she is linked to Oya. She is a typhoon or whirlwind energy, and she has very similar attributes to Oya. And one of her attributes is a crossbow, and one of her animals is a snake, and her number is 9, which is similar. So we're going to talk about Axieros, who is a Somathrace goddess, and Chang'O, who is a Chinese goddess, and then the last goddess we'll talk about today, and I think I might be able to find a star and a link, is Chantico. Okay, and we'll go into that a little bit. All right. So we're going to first start with Axieros. So as I told you, I was going through this book, and just came across Ayeyo, and then I was like, okay, well, who else? Let's check out who else. So that's one of them. Axieros, Somathrace, a Somathrace goddess. And so, okay, let's do that. So here we go. So Axieros, A-X-I-E with a little above it, R-O-S. Eros is how I think it's pronounced. Axieros or Axieros. But I should probably ask ChatGPT. My phone's not in here. Is it in here? It is in here. I'm going to pause. I'm going to check. Axieros is what ChatGPT said. Okay. So, Axieros is the great goddess who was venerated at the Somathrace temple complex. Okay? The Somathrace means Thracian Samos, which is a large land off the coast of Thrace. Greek. This is a Greek area. Okay? Greek colonists began arriving in 700 BCE, but until the 1st century CE, Thracian was a popular language on the island. Okay? So, Samothrace was the center of the shamanic mysteries associated with the Kabiri. Guess who I'm talking to again? Okay, the Kabiri. I wanted to make sure I pronounced that correctly as well. Okay, so the Kabiri are a mystery group known for all kinds of shamanic things, including what we would consider magical, literally able to do all different kinds of things. The region is the Aegean region, and they were central figures considered like primordial beings. Okay, so that's what ChatGPT said, and I'm going to share with you what's in her book, okay, about them continuing. So there is not a lot of information that survives I asked about that on ChatGPT, and this book was written, several years ago. So it's kind of cool that there's a little bit more information. Anyhow, the information that does survive in its day, the shrine at Somathrace was as famous as Eleusis. Alexander the Great's father allegedly met his mother Olympus there. The historian Herodotus was an initiate. Veneration at the temple complex officially continued until the 4th century, although there's a report of pagan activity up until the 1600 CE. Pagan, that word. Anyhow. Greeks identified, it's like anything other than specifically the Christian God is considered pagan. And I don't like that. I'm just saying. I don't like it. I don't like it. Because of how people who are called pagan are treated. I like the word, fine. I like the word. But just the perception. Anyhow, thanks for listening to that. Greeks identified Axieros with Demeter, who may imply that she presided over the mysteries of Somathrace, just as Demeter presided over Eleusis. The only surviving information derives from Greek sources that the Thracians thought it was now, what Thracians thought is now unknown. But according to ChatGPT, their worship was highly esoteric, and they were believed to be the children of the primordial deities, sometimes linked to the Titans or other early gods. Their mythology is complex and intertwined with the various ancient Greek and pre-Greek traditions. They would practice certain rites, and those rites promised initiates protection at sea, better fate in the afterlife, and the Kaberi were linked to this deity, Axieros. Okay, so continue. This is, this later. Now, others theorize that Axieros is another name for Kybele, but this is all speculation, and ChatGPT didn't say that. But if you've listened to my videos, you'll see that a lot of the deities will link back, which to me goes back to the stars, and that's why. Anyhow, okay. So Axieros was closely identified with stones and minerals. Sacrifices and offerings were made to her atop sacred rocks. She was identified with lodestones, magnetic iron ore, understood as sharing her essence with those things. And that could go back to Kalilech, right? Who I mispronounce as Kalilia, but Kalilech, who is the quote unquote like stone goddess. She made mountains. Okay. Just another, that's what I was saying. We start finding similarities like across the board. Okay. Initiates to her mysteries wore rings carved from lodestones. Such rings have been found in graves and in the nearby town or necropolis. Axieros was venerated as part of a triad with Axiokersha, whom the Greeks identified with Persephone, and Axiokersos identified with Hades, which is interesting because I just looked up the star connection to those deities, the Persephone and Hades. Okay, and Axieros' husband, sometimes Axiokersos, who is also identified as Hades, is sometimes described as Axieros' husband, with Axiokersa as their daughter, which would put a different spin on the myth. They may have been a family of spirits, dominion over birth, death, and rebirth, according to ChatGPT. That was more related to the Caballeri. And the Greeks compared a fourth member of the Somathracian pantheon, Cadmilos, to Hermes. So there's a link to Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thoth, or Mercury. Oh my goodness, right? Linked to this story as well. Okay, all four, when it came to the Axiokersa, Axiokersos, Axieros, and Cadmilos, were venerated together. Okay, here are some attributes for her Axieros. All right, her altars within the Somathrace sanctuary were formed of porphyry. I'm gonna look it up. Hold on. Okay, it's a very important stone, and its color is purple red, and it has like crystals in it. It's highly valued. They used to make temples, and I apologize. They would make certain statues and such from this stone, monuments, columns, imperial regalia, especially in Rome and probably Greek. And this is probably why, because it came from a veneration of this deity. Okay, it is considered a sacred stone and associated with royalty. So that is her. It's part of her altar. It's also part of her representation. You can represent her with porphyry. I'm going to have to look that stone up. Okay, offerings similar to what would be given to Demeter or Cybele may be appropriate. So we would have to go look at Cybele and Demeter. But we're not going to do that right now. Okay, because we're moving on to the next deity, which is Chang'O. And this one just kind of threw me because Chang'O, who's also called Chang'o, you could say Chang'o, but this is literally Lady Chang'O. She is a moon deity and Chinese. Okay. Chang'O lady. I said Lady Chang'O. Chang'O lady. The moon lady. China. She's also known as Heng-O and Chang'e. Okay. Although other places describe a man in the moon, in the Chinese cosmology, the moon is inhabited by Lady Chang'O. A beautiful, lonely woman. Why she always gotta be lonely? I'm just saying. Oh, Lord. Lord lady. Okay. There are different versions of how she ended up there. But in all of them, she secretly swallows the elixir of immortality, which may have been intended for her husband. So the story is that it was intended for her husband, but he didn't drink it, so she drank it, and then she became the moon. And so the story is that she either swallows this potion or there are two potions and she swallows both. Okay? But he was supposed to take it. So she receives more than she anticipated and expected to be made an immortal, which indeed occurred. She became the moon. She unexpectedly floated up into the sky and became the moon. And she lives alone on the moon in a palace made of cinnamon wood. Her soul companions are a three-legged toad and a rabbit on the moon, which you can see in the design on the moon, right? And the rabbit who pounds out the elixir of immortality with his mortar and pestle. Oh, that's kind of cute. Which would... Interesting, because you could probably use his feet, right? Lady Chang'O was never just an ordinary mortal. Prior to her marriage to Yi, the archer, the moon lady. I wonder if Orion is the archer for them. Anyways, okay. Lady Chang'O, prior to her marriage to the archer Yi, Lady Chang'O was among the attendants of the Hsi Wangmu, Queen Mother of the West. Even in exile on the moon, Lady Chang'O is a powerful presence on Earth. China's lunar exploration program is named in her honor. She stars in The Moon Lady, the best-selling children's book by Amy Tan and Gretchen Shields. Lady Chang'O is celebrated during the annual Moon Festival. It's also known as the Autumn Harvest Festival. It is the time to invoke her blessings, and is also the time when she grants secret wishes. Not just any wishes. They must be your secret desires. Okay? And her moon festival celebrates the power of yin, the universe divine feminine force. Although the moon festival is her big night, those who adore her may venerate Lady Chang'O year-round. Votive statues are available. Lady Chang'O provides oracles during the moon festival. Light a stick of incense for her altar, then whisper your wish or question. Be silent and listen. The first words you hear from a passerby represent Lady Chang'O's answer. I think that's kind of cool. Her manifestation is, she's always described as a beautiful woman. Ritual, gaze. A ritual to do is to gaze upon the full moon, articulate your secret. And so I've heard this across the board. You tell your secrets to the moon, you talk to the moon, right? And the moon will help bring your desires, okay? And theoretically, Lady Chang'O expects no payment for favors done on this night, and this is the full moon. And it's an example of the noblesse oblige, but it wouldn't hurt to light some incense for her and pour her a libation for wine. So basically they're saying, like, and this is my theory about Great Mother, ultimately, is Great Mother does not require any kind of worship or ritual, but you can venerate her however you like. And this is kind of an example of that. Okay, then her sacred day is the Moon Festival, and that is on the Chinese lunar month. It is, let's see, the Moon Festival occurs on the 15th day of the 8th Chinese lunar month. Interesting. See, they go by lunar months. Okay, and then let's see, moonlight is a moon hair. You can use the moon hair. 13 moon cakes, because we talk about the 13 moons. And these are things like you could put towards your altar, or you can use towards offerings or veneration. Let's see. Oh, okay. I was talking about the 13 moon cakes, one for each month. And then you can add 5 more plates, each filled with a different fruit, representation, different blessings, apples, grapes, melons, peaches, and pomegranates. And that's something also interesting, because you will see that within the Yoruba traditions and many traditions, but specifically the Yoruba tradition, where they will venerate fruit and food. So, okay, that's for Chang'O. And then certain offerings are like candles, incense cakes, moon cakes, special round cakes filled with pastries, commercially available during the moon festivals specifically. One of them says that filling a watermelon, A filling of watermelon seeds may indicate the wish for sons. Well, because it's not. Anyhow. You see how patriarchy bleeds into everything? Like, across the world? Oh, my goodness sakes. Okay. The tops of small cakes may be ornamented with pictures of the moon, the rabbit, the lady Chang'O, or auspicious wishes for longevity or good health, but make sure to keep it a secret. Okay, so that's Chang'O. And then there's Chang'o. We're not going to go into Chang'o today, but Chang'o and Chang'o, the lady Chang'O, they're spelled the same. Only the O is emphasized at the end for the Chinese deity. And then we go into Chang'o, or Chang'o, who is spelled the same way in the Yoruba tradition. It's really interesting to me because you see some definite similarities. One is for the moon. One is a different kind of representation because the moon isn't really represented for Chang'o in the Yoruba tradition, but what you do see is the same pronunciation, the same spelling, and then, the idea of wanting sons, right? Even in the traditional Chinese tradition, you can see that kind of carry over into the Yoruba and many traditions, which I think is based in patriarchy. But I just find that interesting. There might be a time I go into Chang'o on the Yoruba side. That is a deity I'm pretty familiar with. But it just recently, this was my kind of interpretation of Chang'o when it comes to the Yoruba tradition, is that Oya, because he is, many people, if you don't know the story, is that Oya was one of Shango's wives. Well, Chang'o is lightning, and he carries like the lightning and thunder, where Oya is storms. And so I had decided on my own that Oya gave Chang'o lightning. Where would he get it from? When you get it from Oya, if she does storms, and the storms include lightning and thunder and all the things like ocean, the wind, like she holds all the elements. So I theorize that she gifted them to him. But more recent information has come up. One of my friends told me that another YouTuber was talking about how Chang'o may be female. And I think that might be possible. I think it might be possible. A lot of the Yoruba deities are, especially, well, one of the main ones, Obatala, was female first. From what I read, I don't know, right? That's not one of the ones I follow. But from what I read, Obatala is female first, and Obatala is able to gender, is that the right word? Yeah, gender shift from male to female. From female to male. From female to male. Okay, so that's why I'm not going to say no, because I think everything was female first. So was Chang'o female first, and was Chang'o one of Oya's sisters, and then became a male? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to come to our third deity. And, okay, before we move on, though, a little bit, because we talked about the first deity. I'll go back to that. We'll finish this and I'll go back to that. Okay, where are we at? 30 minutes? All right. I try to keep these around 30 minutes, but they're always about an hour, so thanks for listening and watching. Right, so Chantico. I was saying it wrong. Chantico. Give me a moment. A different deity. This deity's name is spelled Chantico. or maybe known as Chantico. Can you help me pronounce that correctly?
Absolutely. The name is typically pronounced Chantico or Chantico, depending on the linguistic roots and the regional pronunciation. The emphasis usually falls on the second syllable, T. If it's from a Mesoamerican or indigenous context, the CH might lean more towards a sh sound, making Chantico a likely pronunciation. Let me know if you'd like more info about this deity.
We might get there. So, okay, Chantico. I was saying it correctly. Chantico. Also spelled Xantico. Okay. Aztec. Because, I've been doing South American deities and wanting to remind us who we are. Especially the Great Mothers. Okay. This goddess is of fire and hearth. As a hearth goddess, she was venerated in the home as well as in the temples. She is a guardian spirit who protects whatever is valuable and precious. In 1519, after the arrival of conquistadors, any accompanying missionaries, Chantico's primary votive image was secretly buried to keep it safe. Chantico is associated with health, fertility, wealth, and abundance. The manifestations are as a woman, any woman, and as fire. I think that's so cool. Attribute is cactus spines. Animal, a red snake. I love all these snakes. See how many snakes relate to deities? Okay. Plant is better known as chocolate. Chocolate is one of her plants. Offerings could be a fire, a hearth fire. That's like Christmas, the hearth, the fire, right? I did a video about how Christmas is around the Great Mother. Okay. Was this stolen from the Aztecs? I think possibly. Very possibly. Okay. Then cocoa beans, chocolate, fire. I mentioned that before already. Okay, hot chocolate. All right. So that's a little bit. Let's see if I can get a little bit more about her from ChatGPT. Okay. Yes, can you give me as much information about Chantico as possible?
Sure. Chantico is an Aztec deity, often known as the goddess of hearth fires and volcanoes. Her name can be translated to she who dwells in the house, reflecting her association with domesticity and the warmth of the home. Chantico was revered as a protector of the hearth and the family, ensuring that the sacred flame never went out. She was also linked to precious things like jewels and wealth, symbolizing the value and stability of the home. One of the notable myths about Chantico involved her transformation into a dog as a punishment for breaking a dietary taboo. She consumed roasted fish during a religious fast when it was forbidden, and the god Tonatiuh turned her into a dog as a result. This myth highlights her connection to both the sacred and the consequences of breaking sacred laws. In iconography, Chantico is sometimes depicted with a crown of cactus spikes and red adornments signifying fire and warmth. She embodies the duality of fire, its capacity to nurture and protect, as well as to destroy if not respected. Overall, Chantico represents the vital hearth fire that sustains life and the sacred duties that come with maintaining it. If you want to dive deeper into any aspect of her mythology or cultural significance, let me know.
I can't think of anything right now because I was so distracted by the dog story. Okay, so another deity who got in trouble and then was turned into a dog by possibly a male. I wonder if that... Wait, what did they say? He said that the god Tonatiuh turned her into a dog. Can you tell me a little bit about the god who turned her into a dog?
The god who turned Chantico into a dog is Tonatiuh, the Aztec sun god. Tonatiuh was a major deity in the Aztec pantheon, closely associated with the sun, warmth, and the continuation of the world. The Aztecs believed that Tonatiuh required regular offerings and sacrifices to ensure the sun would continue to rise each day. In the myth where Chantico was transformed, Tonatiuh punished her for breaking a sacred fast by eating roasted fish. This act of consuming forbidden food during a time of religious observance was seen as a serious transgression, and Tonatiuh's punishment was to turn her into a dog. This transformation served as a cautionary tale about the importance of adhering to religious laws and the consequences of disobedience to the gods. Tonatiuh himself is often depicted as a fierce and powerful deity with a face at the center of the Aztec sunstone, representing the current era of the fifth sun in Aztec cosmology. His role in Chantico's story underscores the theme of maintaining cosmic order and the importance of strict observance of ritual purity. If you'd like to know more about Tonatiuh or any related myths, just let me know.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know about y'all's response to that, but once again, to me, it's like you demonize her. She probably, who knows why she ate that. Like, can we get some backstory as to why she ate the roasted fish? I mean, who was making it? It was roasted. It was a time of fasting. Did she make it? Is this kind of like the Eve story where, you know, and then it's fine because certain deities like Hecate, Oya, also my guess is they didn't put a red snake, but possibly also a dog, but she probably left that out because, you know, out of this book, well, like, I don't know if that information was already out there. It probably was, but really, it just makes me so mad. And then just reinforces, like, where you can see how certain religions got certain ideas. You're going to turn someone into a dog for eating some fish? Like, what? All right. So, that's a little... Okay. So, what I had done before this video was do a little bit of research around the stars stories that might link to Persephone, Hades, and one of the other deities that I mentioned with the first goddess that we talked about, which is Axieros, right? And I did a little at the end of my last video. I did a little kind of like snippet on Ceres, Ceres, the deity that is, I theorize, literally linked to Sirius because she is considered the agricultural goddess. Well, when it came to like the story of hell and the underworld, so I learned something that the underworld wasn't considered literally under the world. It was when the stars would go over the horizon, Horus, sun, right? Horizon. That's where we get the name Horizon. That's the underworld. The underworld is the part where you can see that the stars will set. You can see that the sun will set. You can see that the moon will set. But then they come back, right? So the theory was that they go down, under, and then come back up, right? So it's not literally like under the world, but under what we can see. So it was more considered a spiritual thing than an actual thing that existed, according to the research, right? It was a thing that existed, but not in the way that we perceive it today, like hell. And then there is a link to Persephone and Sirius. There is a link to Persephone and the Pleiades, because there's a whole story linked to Persephone being the daughter of one of the Pleiades in certain mythology. And then we have Hades, which could be related to hell, meaning the goddess hell, because we have Hades, which represents the masculine, but Hades also is supposed to represent Pluto, a dark, unseen planet. Well, somebody saw it, somebody recognized it. And I'm wondering if those groups that studied the stars and created like dark star constellations, did they notice Pluto and like the new moon, could actually see the new moon and Pluto in the sky because they followed it so well? There's some questions, just some wonderings. There's some questions. But what I did find is more links to the stars. So for the next carry on about stars and the star links I will be going into a little bit of the Aboriginal, meaning Australia, stories, because they also have a dark star map based in the Milky Way, but it's a different animal. So we still see a lot of animization of deities and humans, or human life on Earth. A lot of animization. And then we have the link to the Milky Way again. So with the Incan, it was several animals. With the Aboriginal, it's one long animal. And depending on what part of that animal and where it's at would determine their seasons. So the reason why I got all into this is because, it first started with like the contemplation of God. Right? And what we would have worshipped. Because I started realizing like worship isn't a natural human thing. We're not supposed to worship something. I was like, okay, well, if we did worship, maybe it would be the earth, because the earth is always ever present, always listening, always being, like kind of some of the descriptions of how God is God, the God of the Bible, God of the Civil Bible is described. And then I thought, well, we probably didn't worship things. We probably just like venerated them and, did certain things in honor of these and just paid attention. So and start with the planets, and then the planets moved into the new moon discovery and the 13 months and really figuring out the 13 months. And then the star stories. It is. So this is where I'm at. Yes, we followed the earth. We paid attention to the planets. And with that, we followed the stars. We created stories around those stars. Because also, if you look at some of the constellations, you'd have to be upside down to see them. Like, I feel like we give a lot of credit to who's taught us these things without really considering where they came from. Because even like Virgo, in certain places, she's sideways with wings and all this stuff. But then in certain places, then she's straight up, which would make more sense, right? You get this, just a lot of things showing another perspective. Why wouldn't we say that something came from the sky when we're often looking up at the stars? I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of questioning around some of the stories we heard, but many links to the stories we've heard, literally linking to the stars. Around religion. Religious stories linking specifically to the stars. So yeah, I want to keep going. I want to learn about how the Aboriginals do it, because we've all been misled. Even when we're told like New Year's is this time and New Year's is this time and New Year's is this time. Man, depending on where you live and where you're at. Because the other thing is, again, let me just say, if you're on the equator, the days are the same amount of time. It doesn't stay longer. It doesn't stay lighter longer. It doesn't stay darker longer. The days stay pretty even. So if you're on the equator, you would figure out your New Year's and your ceremonies and those things differently. How would you do it? I don't know, maybe the stars, right? Then you start realizing all around the world, different pyramids, monuments, structures, what do they align with? Predominantly the Pleiades, Orion, and Sirius. Predominantly around the world. The Milky Way is considered, but yeah. And then depending on which culture it is, you have different stories. You have like the serpent mounds, you have pyramids, you have whole cities built around the stars. The puma in South America. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting the name? I forgot the name right now. We know why I forgot the name. It's okay. Somebody remembers it. Sema? Did I say that right? Probably not. Anyhow, those will be my next videos, which you will be able to really utilize if you are a member. So consider becoming a member. That would be cool. We could deep dive a little bit more where you have a bit more information about the dark star constellations and stars and their link to where we are today and the Great Mother. All right. That was a cool video today. Thank you for being here, listening, sharing, commenting, subscribing, becoming a member.